Howdy everybody, thank you for joining me today. This is the Roaming Prepper channel. I'm your host Pete. For those of you who have not been here before, for those of you who have and are my regulars, thank you once again for coming back. Today's video is going to be very straightforward. It's going to be a very basic video that was made by request not only of some family members of mine, but also some of my viewers, which is I will cover the very basic breakdown of the AR-15 configured as the M4, the classic M4, for the purpose of safety. As you can see, the weapon is clear. So I'm going to do the basics of the components of the firearm, and then I'm going to do a basic field breakdown, a few pointers on cleaning, and then a reassembly. Should be pretty straightforward for those of you familiar with the platform, either from time in service or whatever other experience you've had. This is going to be a basic 101. For those of you newer, feel free to pause, rewind, whatever you think you need to get more familiar with your platform. So I'll be right back and let's start breaking this one down. Thanks for coming and check out the video. And again, for those of you who just popped on, this is the very basic 101 on how to tear down a very basic AR build. This is probably one of the first ones I owned that I actually bothered to buy. This is actually a high standard AR-15. High standard was making the M4s for the police departments here in Texas. They were based out of Houston. This is one of the last ones they built. It actually has, high standard manufacturing, Houston, Texas. At least the last ones they built under that name. This is probably the oldest AR in the collection. Actually, it pretty much is the oldest AR in the collection. The way I set it up is I gave it the standard A2 sights. That's what I used when I was in the Guard many, many years ago. I was kind of salty to find out my sons got optics and I didn't. But, you know, times change, right? So anyway, let's go over the basics for those of you unfamiliar with the AR platform. Now, the AR platform was designed by Colonel Stoner back in the late 50s, early 60s. No pun intended. He wasn't a stoner. That was just his name. The original, if you watch Forrest Gump or any of the Vietnam movies, actually had a 20-inch barrel, and then it had a solid stock. It didn't have a collapsing or telescopic stock, as you see here. This particular model is more along the M4 lines. I put a basic 2-point sling. I actually bought this originally when my sons told me they had interest in going into the military so that they could at least have been familiar with the platform before they showed up to basic training. So this particular rifle has trained all three of my kids. And then my kids are training each other and their friends, and they borrowed it from time to time. In any case, so just starting, buttstock, grip, trigger. There's your bolt carrier is inside the lower. The rifle does break into two, which I'll show you in a minute. This one has a 16-inch barrel, which is the minimum length to legally call it a rifle. If you go below that, it is technically an SBR, a short-barreled rifle, and it requires an NFA stamp from the ATF. There's a lot of debate. I have my opinions about that foolishness, but the law is what it is, so I'm simply going to state the law as it stands, and you guys react accordingly. The basic controls, obviously, you have your trigger. This is your forward assist to push that bolt carrier should it get hung up. Mag eject is here. This is your charging handle, which is, as you can see, has a latch on the left side of the weapon. Turning it around, there's your safety. That is safe, that is fire. In the burst or fully automatic, like the old A2s and A3s, you have a safe, a fire, and a 3-round burst. Or in some of the more specialized M4s, it's actually fully auto. Part of the reason they put a burst in there was because the original ones were fully auto. And in Vietnam, the guys were blowing through the ammunition because it has a very high rate of fire. In Vietnam, because they would shoot so quickly and then not realize their mag was empty, because they weren't used to that rate of fire in a firearm, they put a burst. I think they've since rescinded that in a lot of these models. But in any case, that is a basic description of the rifle. As you can see, I just put a very simple 2-point Blackhawk sling on there. I'm a big fan of 2 points. I've tried to go the 1-point sling route, and I've had the barrel poke me. It's hit me in the crotch. Trying to run with it, or more importantly, do any kind of work with my hands, I want to be able to turn the rifle around and kind of sling it so it's snug to my body. It's really hard to do that with a single point. 2 or 3 point sling for me is the way I go. Everyone has their preference. So in any case, I'm going to start the teardown here. So what you do, again, first and foremost, you check visually in there and make sure that there is nothing in the weapon. Now, this is actually the bolt catch. This will hold the bolt open. So if you give it a quick smack, it drops the bolt. For those of you not familiar with the platform. So in any case, I've cleared the weapon, I've dropped the bolt. I now will begin a basic disassembly of the firearm. So the first thing I do, right here you have a pin you push, and you give that a little tug there, and you see it will hinge. You now have a lower and an upper. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the law, this part is technically the firearm. So you can actually switch the upper. You want a 20-inch barrel, a 16-inch barrel, different configurations up here. You can actually swap out the upper. If you have an upper shipped to your house, it comes by UPS. If you get the lower, that's technically considered the firearm, and that has to go to an FFL, gun shop, etc., etc. You can't just get it sent to your house. So, in any case, you notice there's a spring back here. That's the buffer spring and the buffer tube. And basically, when the weapon fires, the bolt carrier will go backwards, push against the spring, eject the empty round, and as the spring pushes it back forward, it picks up the next round in the mag. So, in any case, I've popped the rifle apart, and here I now take that little latch, pop it, and out comes the bolt carrier group, which doesn't seem to want to come out. Give me a second here. There we go. Now, this is basically the weapon broke down in its most simple form. If you're kind of in a pinch for time, you're trying to do a quick cleanup, this is pretty much where you can stop. Now, I'm going to break down the bolt carrier group a little. I'm going to pull these two apart as well, just so you can get a feel for that. But in any case, that's a very basic breakdown. So here's your charging handle, the bolt carrier group. So this goes, the other way. No, I was right. Forward and backwards as the bullet fires, the gas comes up a tube here, strikes this, and pushes it back. Against that spring, it ejects the empty, the spring pushes the bolt forward, it picks up the new round, you're ready to fire the next shot. So let's break this guy apart a little bit and give you an idea of what it looks like to tear that down. Okay, so you have the bolt carrier group. As you can see, this is a little bit older. I still have, I actually did a pretty good job cleaning it. In here, you see this little pin. Now, that can be a challenge to pull out, and it's probably going to fight me when I put it back. But you pull that pin out, and there's that pin. Don't lose it, or you'll hate yourself in the morning. And you pull, and out comes the firing pin. So your firing pin has been removed. Now, you see there's this little toggle looking bolt here. You turn it and pop it out. And there is your, there's your disassembly of the bolt carrier group. Typically, you want to clean around here. I loaned this to my youngest son, who apparently kind of cleaned it. So I'm going to have to give him some gripe because he's actually the active duty guy in the family. He probably cleans enough rifles. He's like, nah, Dad can clean it. Anyway, I'll pick on him later. In any case, you have your bolt carrier. And if you look at the end of this, that little like tooth there is the extractor. That's what grabs the casing and pops it out. So in any case, that's an disassembly. You wipe the pin down, wipe these down. I like to use Rem oil. It gives a very thin sheen of oil protection, but it's not goopy like grease. I try to clean in there. You can use pipe cleaners. I also use Q-tips. You just break it down, give it a nice once over, wipe it away. Wipe here as well. So there's your bolt carrier group. I'm going to move these pieces over and roll up my sleeve a little bit because everything's a little... I'm going to close this and pop this other pin out. Now this is not necessary to clean the upper half, but it makes it easier for me to show you. So there's your lower. Remember, that technically is a firearm. And here you can see there's your chamber. And this is where your bolt carrier would sit. And there's a gas tube in there. So again, the way it works, when the weapon discharges, bullet goes out that way, gases follow it. A portion of that gas comes up by this delta sight and pushes back in a tube that runs right above the barrel inside this foregrip, which I'm not going to pull off because that's a pain in the ass. It comes into the chamber and strikes this portion of the bolt carrier, slamming it back, ejecting the empty. It moves forward, picks up the new round. Now that is called a direct impingement rifle. So the gases actually hit the chamber. On the one end, it creates a lighter firearm and the center of gravity is smack in the middle. So it's easier to manipulate. On the flip side, you get fouling in the chamber and in the bolt carrier group, which is a throw, kind of like an offset to the benefits of the direct impingement. So again, make sure there are other quote-unquote ARs that have a piston here. Technically, that's not an AR. Technically, that's more like a G36 or an L-Rock, depending on what type you get. So that's a different firearm in its design, but the concept's generally the same, right? In that case, the piston would strike back. But a true AR, the true M16, is like this. It is a direct impingement, which is why it does need regular maintenance. You need to maintain its cleanliness. I have had the bolt lock on me because I haven't used it in a while, so you make sure it's lubricated. I personally like to tear down the weapon maybe once every 3 to 6 months, kind of like I'm doing now, and just give it a wipe down, give it a spray, get any junk off of it. Make sure it has a very light sheen of lubrication on it. Some folks don't like that. They like it bone dry. I just found that works for me. Like I said, this one is probably 15, almost 20 years old. It still shoots like a champ, so I can't complain. In any case, a few other pointers. In here, you're going to get a lot of fouling. You're going to want to clean in here. You're going to want to get maybe a Q-tip or tweezers with the gun wipe. I spray a little bit of Rem oil. I don't like using solvent on my firearms unless absolutely necessary. Other people like it. You'll learn as you go. Wipe out in here, clean that away, get into the star chamber. I have angled forceps, actually medical forceps, that have a 45-degree angle at the end, and I put a little wipe in there and I get in there and clean out this. Then you need either a brush on the plunger that you can push through here and wipe garbage out. You put a little brass brush through here and clean out the garbage, and then you can replace the brush with like a little hoop, and you can put a cleaning wipe and wipe out any residue. I'm a big fan of the boar snake, which is actually just a rope with the cleaning cloth built on it, and it has a little weight. You kind of drop it in here and you hold your barrel up. When it pops out here, you just kind of pull it through and it takes all the debris out. Different ways to clean it. Really, as long as the weapon's clean, there's really no wrong way to clean it, unless you start not cleaning it right and it jams up on you. As far as the lower, you'll get fouling in here. You'll probably need to clean the mag well as well. This is where your mags would go. Clean that out. while you have it open, you know, take a visual of all the springs, make sure everything looks in good order. You don't have any rust, especially if you're buying one secondhand, or if it's been put up for a while and you haven't messed with it. And then, you know, basically that's it. Now, one of the positives of this platform is that its use is very simple. One of the negatives is also that its use is very simple, and crazy people will, you know, misuse this device. You know, out in, you know, the flat, grassy deserts of Texas, this is probably a great friend to have, because the pigs out here will move about 20, 30 miles an hour. And if they decide to come at you, you got about a whole 5 seconds to fight with them. Also great for, you know, home defense. I've found that both larger and smaller statured people can configure the firearm, especially in light of this telescoping stock, to their liking. You can also replace this, the rear grip. You can go in there, there's a little tool. Actually, that one's a flathead screwdriver. You could take it out and you can change the grip to something a little more amenable to your ergonomics personally. You can even swap out this over here, and, you know, off it comes. And then you can put a different buttstock if that floats your boat. So, or you can jam it in there like I just did. In any case, you kind of get the picture. This is a great platform for a lot of reasons. Unfortunately, as I've said, much like anything else, it gets abused by certain types of people, and that's unfortunate. But, you know, you can ban them, and then they'll just bring them over the border anyway. So, in any case, this is, I won't go into the politics or legalities of different platforms, but this is a great, simple build. If you want to get yourself acquainted with it, I don't know if High Standard's still making it. There are other brands on the market. I'm a fan of having iron sights, or basically metal sights, as opposed to a scope or an optic, because they rarely, if ever, fail. I mean, even if that little rear sight fell off, I could still look down this little channel here, look over that front sight, and get a pretty decent aim. If you zero at 50 yards, you will come back to your zero at 200. That's how I sight mine in. Different people do it different ways. Some sight in at 100, some at 400. Depends what range you have and what your philosophy is. But again, very simple firearm to break down, very easy to clean. I'll do the reassembly a little bit faster than I did the disassembly. So, please tell me I didn't lose that pin. There we go. You almost watched me have a fail here. So, you put the star back in. Make sure that the extractor, remember, it'll be ejecting to the right. So make sure if you're looking at it this way, the extractor is to the right hand. You put that in there. Fine, I'll call it the T. That's really not the technical name, but I just blanked out. Anyway, put that in there, pull it forward, drop your pin in. Then this one's going to be a bear because this pin's a little bit screwed up. Get that pin back in, that little cotter, and see if you can nicely get it in, or you fight it. I may need a tool here. There we go. All right, so I wound up finding a gorilla hook on the wall. Anyway, so I edited out. That took me a few minutes. I do have a little tool to mess with that. In the field, that would be a pain in the butt, so make sure you have something you can use. In any case, I battled that. There we go. Now, to reassemble, put the charging handle first. There's a little groove on the bottom here, or on the top, I should say. And you have these little fins. So put it along the top, try to get it in there, and boop, you see how it jumped up? It catches that little hole and it goes up. And now that charging handle is lined up with that groove. Then you pull the extractor forward so it seats. Reassembly is really easy at that juncture. If you've completely removed it like I did, you simply put it together, pop one, pop two, that's it. Now, function check very quickly. Safe, pull the trigger, does not operate. Fire, you hear the click. You charge it, holding the trigger down, and I'm going to release the trigger and listen. Heard that click, and there it goes. So this firearm is now ready to be used. I would recommend, like I said, I use Rem oil for this. Everyone has their own way of cleaning stuff. I just wanted to do a 101 video so you guys could kind of get a feel for this platform. I have different ones configured in different ways, including one with a scope for the purpose of being out in the field. So in any case, folks, I hope you this was beneficial. I hope you learned a little bit about the history of the firearm and also the basics of the takedown. Again, if you own one, keep it secure, for God's sakes. Don't let assholes get a hold of it. We don't need any more of that. But in any case, folks, that kind of concludes the teardown. All right, folks, so I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I enjoyed making it. I enjoyed doing a good shooters video. Again, not the platform for everyone, but it is a great multi-purpose platform. It was bought a while ago. I probably paid $500-600 for it. Some higher end models with chrome barrels, and well, most of them have chrome barrels, but more bougie stuff, you could look up into the thousands depending on what it is you're looking for and what the purpose is. So, and again, this is a 5.56 millimeter, aka a 223 round. I will remind everyone, you don't want to, if the rifle is marked 5.56 millimeter, it should handle .223 just fine. The other way, some people say that the brass does not sit. The 223 and 5.56, even though they're almost identical, there is a difference in the brass shoulder spacing, basically where the bullet and the edge meet. It may not sit as well. A 5.56 may not sit properly in a 223. Some people have done it for years and they were fine. I do know from an engineering standpoint, the 5.56 chamber pressure can handle either or. The 223 may not handle either or. So you take that how you will. Obviously, if you feel comfortable shooting both out of a 223 stamped rifle, you should be fine. But be mindful of that it may or may not be great. This one was stamped 5.56, so I know it will shoot 223 as well. Keep in mind that is a small round. It's a very high velocity round. If you're trying to use this for pig or javelina, stuff like that, is very effective. You try to hit something large, maybe not. I mean, you'll make holes in it and you'll hurt it. But will you hurt it fast enough before it comes and runs you over and kills you, and then it runs away and dies somewhere else? I couldn't answer that. Obviously, I wouldn't go black bear hunting with one of these damn things. I would bring a more substantial fire. Again, whole different subject. Folks, I hope that was useful, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, that's kind of becoming a historical piece there, because I don't think there are any more high standards out on the open market except for used ones. So God bless, Godspeed, shoot safe, be safe, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.